Hey, how's it going? And today, as you can see behind me, I'm going to be working on Red Ted again. So the plan for Red Ted is I'm going to replace this engine and do a couple things in different videos after. But in this episode, I'm going to be swapping out this engine for a larger one. The main reason I'm swapping it out is because I blew the bottom end out of this engine, and I did that when I was in quarantine and I was filming a whole bunch of tuning videos, and I kept turning the boost up and up and up, and then all of a sudden there she went. I bent a rod, and it wasn't a tuning issue, it was actually a problem with the rods. The rods are like about the size of your fingernail for thickness, or fingers for thickness, so they can't handle much power. So I was about 200 horsepower, and honestly it just went. It still runs and drives, so I will be able to move it around, but honestly at the very time it happened, I did not want to talk about it, because I was like, damn, I love this car, because I love driving it and I wanted to drive it further, like with all this quarantine with no people on the roads and stuff. But I did blow up the bottom end. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to steal an engine from the purple MX-3 and put it into Red Ted, put a new turbo on it, polish all my pipes up again so it looks pretty, and then change these covers over to the other ones, and I'll be back in action. I'm pretty much gonna do it to put it in storage, but I will tell you why. So I've got the Suicide MX-3 on the trailer towing by my truck, and I've had it at my house for 5 days now, and I've had it there because I really deep cleaned my shop. I took all the stuff off my racks. This is all new stuff, new parts. This one too. All the floors are swept, all the garbage is out, and I cleaned every tool in my box by hand with brake clean. Awesome. I am missing a couple tools, but I will go to the store and get them. I just wanted to be up to par because I am building 2 engines, and I want everything right up to spec with my tooling. I don't want to be messing around with dirty tools and tools that I don't even have that I think I have, wasting time. So I'm all set up for the winter. I'm all clean. So back to where I was at. Here's the Suicide MX-3. I brought it back to the shop because I'm gonna pull the KLZE out of the front, which is a bone stock, never opened, like fresh KLZE that I'm going to put into Red Ted, because I am going to be putting, as you probably know, a built engine in the front and built engine in the back. I have to build them still, but I'm waiting on parts and things getting balanced. So, but before I take it off, I've got to straighten my back wheel out. As you can see, it's all bent because I did wall tap pretty hard in the last episode at the go-kart track. So what I'm gonna do temporarily, I'm going to extend my tie rod to get this straight. So I actually changed my mind. I'm gonna do this with the car on the trailer. There's no point unloading it to load it right back up tonight. So I'm just going to pull this out like this. Be a first time for everything. So what I'm gonna do is jack up the car, get it on jack stands, take off the wheels, unbolt everything, undo the whole wiring harness, and then get that engine and tranny out onto the floor. And to get my turbo off, all I gotta do is undo one nut down there for a V-band, and then one out of my transmission, which is linked to the actual turbo. And then literally my wastegate, my downpipe, my turbo, all that will come right off, including these 2 tips. Boom, it'll come right out. All right, I got both the axles out, wheels are on again, so now when I'm underneath it, it's definitely safe. So I'm gonna go underneath there, get the shifter off, clutch lines, couple miscellaneous things, and then it's engine bolts, wiring harness, and she comes out. The engine is dangling aggressively. If you didn't notice, it swung over quite aggressively, but sometimes that happens when you're doing things. It's already dark out and I work tomorrow. So I'm going to take off the power steering assembly here. I'm going to take off the actual pulley and then remove from the engine, and I'm going to leave the power steering system with the car. That's always recommended from me when you're pulling an engine from a vehicle, that you want the power steering to be a-okay the way it was, because then you're not breaking any lines loose or anything. You just boom, off the engine, take that engine out, training out, whatever you got to do. One thing with the E85 is over the winter, you definitely want to get that out of your fuel system if you're just going to leave it sit like I do. Well, I'm not letting it sit, I'm working on it. But anyways, you got to get it out of that fuel system to give your fuel system a break and put some normal pump fuel in, get it going through the system so your seals don't actually deteriorate themselves to death, and you don't want that because you can save yourself some money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the end of my fuel pump into a drum, and I'm going to get all the E85 out, put some pump fuel back in, prime the system, get some pump fuel in there, and then that is how it's going to sit in my intake. And then I'm going to plumb my intake to itself on the intake and the return, and that is how it will sit with pump fuel in it, so it doesn't deteriorate itself to death. I got the engine out of the front of this Suicide MX-3. It's right there. I got the tranny on it. So what I'm going to do is pull in the Red Ted MX-3. And here he is, all back in the shop. As you can hear, it's got a serious rod knock, and that is why I stopped driving it, because I knew it needed an engine. So I wanted to make sure I was putting a good enough engine for actually getting some reliability out of it. So I'm gonna get right into it and pull this thing right apart, get the engine out, and then get this one ready to go in. This is a 2-liter V6 and this is a 2.5. So I'm gonna make 150 more horsepower. So I'm gonna be around 300 plus horsepower. Alright, just a nice little reminder on how nice I made those headers. Look at those collectors. V-bands, all pretty dope. So when I made this entire turbo setup, I made everything easily removable so I can get the engines in and out easy. So I've got one V-band down here, and it's connected to the turbo, which is connected to the downpipe, which is connected to the wastegate. So all I gotta do is undo that one V-band right here, and then the entire turbo will come from underneath the car, and I can just throw it over there. So then on the engine, when I remove the headers, all I do is put headers on here, drop in the engine, and then I'll put in this entire setup after the engine's in, and it'll be done. I'm going to be putting a ported and polished throttle body on. This is what the factory one looks like, and this is what a ported and polished one looks like. I've done this a few years ago before I started filming, and I think it's finally time to use her. She's beautiful. Compared to that, look at that. So there's this dish that is inset that's completely taken out on this one. So more air can flow through. It'll have less turbo lag, more bottom end power, and it will flow more air. So I'm pretty pumped on that. And as you can see, it is also a larger butterfly valve in there. So this one is about 65 mil, and this one is 60 mil. So it's about 5 more mil. So it's got quite a bit bigger of an actual valve and butterfly in there. I can't wait to see the difference. The KLZE runs, and it runs mint. First try. Purrs like a kitty. At first I had a little miss, but it was just a wire that wasn't on there good enough. But this thing is gonna be a freaking beast. I'm telling you, at least 300 horsepower, and I'm pumped for it. This car is so light, and 300 horsepower with this chassis is insane, because I had about 200 with the old setup, the old engine that was in here, and it was fast. Any BMW, I would piece out on it. Like, I'd walking speed pulling away from it. A Beamer, like, nice Beamers. Anyways, this thing's gonna really pull now. So I'm really excited, and thanks for being along on this journey with me for this red car. So I've got big news for this thing. This thing is gonna get a treatment, and I'll tell you what. I've never ran an intercooler, as you can tell, and I've always just went straight from here, right into the throttle body. And now I'm going to do water to air intercoolers. So if you watch to this part of the video, you're gonna see some cool stuff. Hold on. This is a water to air intercooler, and this is some serious stuff for some serious power. So what it does is it literally will take the air and push it through rad that is full of cold water and cool the air down like crazy. Because when you compress with the turbo, the compressed air gets really hot and you got to cool it down somehow. I never have, because I never could physically TIG weld aluminum. But now I have the luxury of my new welder and I can do aluminum. So I am going to make a sick setup, and this is going to be the first time I've ever done this. So this is going to be sick. So water literally flows through here and exits through here, and literally it's cold water. So I'm going to have another rad for my water. It's not going to be attached to my normal rad for the engine. It's colder water. And I'm going to have an electric pump that's going to be pumping this through it. And this thing is awesome. So what the benefit is between this water to air intercooler and an air to air intercooler is the ones that you normally see that literally have air going through it like a rad and air going through it from your turbo, is they're not as efficient because they get heat soaked pretty bad if you're doing back-to-back pulls. And another thing is it can't get colder than ambient temperature because you can't physically take that much heat out of it with that setup. This setup, I can literally put ice in my water and ice this thing down. And the colder you get the air, the easier it is on your engine and the more power you make. So that will be in the next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.